All right, it's 29 minutes after 7, and we want to have a conversation on the back of what has gone viral. First of all, one is a video of a police officer beating a woman carrying a child in a bank or a savings and loans premise. And then there's also the killing of some 7 individuals in Kumasi, the police killing dead all 7 in Kumasi. We've also had over the weekend a police officer who decided to either to disperse a crowd, decided to shoot, ended up killing a bullion van driver in the process. We want to box all these conversations together and speak to people who are well connected to things like this. Cynthia Nimo Ampredu, Executive Director, Human Rights Advocacy Center. Good morning to you and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Also, Mina Mensah's Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative. She's head of the Africa office. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning to you, Mama V, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
So, I think it will be appropriate to begin with where we are. Where have we come from, really, with all these issues, at least the 3 that I have put together? Maybe I should begin with you, Cynthia. What do we know so far?
Well, I think that for some time now, the police has been in the media for the very wrong things, and the public is not really happy about this. As a nation that has signed on to many international human rights treaties, we did not only sign, we have also ratified, and our laws are actually domesticated. If you look at most of our laws, you'd realize that some of the provisions are actually quoted word for word. And so it shows that as a nation, we have a disposition to protect the human rights of people. And whenever you talk about human rights, you know the police also comes into the picture because of their responsibility to protect the citizen, ensure that there is law and order. And so for all of the issues that are coming up at this moment, I think that they need to be addressed. We need to look at them critically. We have all the laws, and we have to ensure that the institutions are working, that the laws are working. People feel that they are safe. And so for me, this is a kind of conversation I think we should be having at this time.
Mina, we're fortunate that what happened at the Midland Savings and Loans was captured on camera. Otherwise, I'm not sure we would even be talking about this. There are lots of incidents that happen that we don't get the opportunity to see, so it does not start any kind of conversation. But this is not the first time that we've been where we are right now. What should we do?
Thank you once again. I think that, like Cynthia said, we need to ensure that the laws work, number 1. Number 2, we need to ensure that our policemen are well trained. Number 3, we need to also ensure that they realize that they offer a service. We have moved from the position of a force to a service. Unfortunately, a lot of our policemen they think that it is us against the public. That is what their attitude is. Their words are like, okay, we are part of you, but their actions. I must say that I've met quite a number of very, very fine policemen at all levels, from commissioners to the lower, to lance corporals. And I've met also a lot of horrible ones, because I've been in this business for quite a long time. And that also from commissioner to corporal. I always say that policing is an apprenticeship. And for me, the training that they are given when they come out, who is their district commander? Who is their divisional commander? Who is their station officer? Are they human rights oriented? Number 1. Because there are so many of these incidents. I can't even count one that happened and it was actually referred to CHRI. In fact, we were virtually on the ground. And during that incident, if the guys had died, I am sure the police would have told the story that they are armed robbers. Because you see, the way they handled it, it was at First Light, Kaneshi First Light, Mauli restaurant. The boys went there to collect a phone that they said it was missing, and that they tracked it to the police. They were standing there when 6 police vans, police cars, armed, fully armed, they came. Immediately they got, they said, where are the guys? They started beating them, claiming that they got a call that there are armed robbers there. Meanwhile, later on, we heard that the woman knows somebody in the police service. These boys were detained at Odoko police station. We contacted the commander, and that's why I talk about the hierarchy. We contacted the commander, and he goes, okay, I'll look into it. The next day, he tells the boys, you misconducted themselves. There is no crime in our books. There's no offense called misconduct. Yet the police, the commander at the district commander said they've conducted themselves. In fact, they were trying to bully the boys. This was not captured. The boys claimed they were beaten with horse whips when they were in the cells. There were marks all over them. Later on, the gentleman calls me and said, oh, Auntie Mina, so you are letting this kids go to court. I'm like, you are the one taking it to court. The boys are not going to apologize because they have done nothing wrong. The case went to court. They were acquitted and discharged. We had filed a complaint at PIPS. I'm sitting here today. We have heard absolutely nothing. And this was, I think, 2014 or 2015. We have heard nothing. And it was back and forth. Even when we went to PIPS, the policemen come when they like. The boys will go and sit down for long hours, and then they'll be told that, oh, we hear the policemen have gone on operation, so come back later. I mean, if it's anybody, the person will be discouraged. But we were pushing them, don't give up, don't give up. They actually wanted to sue afterwards. But looking at what they had gone through, they are like, fine, the courts have acquitted us. That is what it is, and it's there.
So in the end, what did they?
Nothing has happened. We've written to letters upon letters to request for even the report. Nothing has happened. So it happens all the time. It just doesn't come into the limelight.
But look at the frustrating process just listening to you. How are we encouraged then to deal with it as ordinary citizens? Because the law is all we have.
That is why we at the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, and then we have a group which Cynthia's organization is also a member. We are a group of people working for the setting up of an independent police complaint authority in Ghana. We need that because, you see, PIPS is fit for purpose only as an internal accountability mechanism. When they have a report, it is at the IGP's pleasure to release it or not to release it. If you talk to some officers, and I've spoken to a number of people at the legal department a couple of years ago, they go, it is our operational document. So at the end of the day,
we don't owe you that.
Exactly. But they forget that the police service is manned with my resources, our resources. It is the taxpayers' money. So operational document or not, you owe it to us to release that information. It brings about a kind of confidence in the police service that, okay, when your own do things wrong, you would investigate and tell us what is happening, even if it was a mistake. Because you see, policing is a very, very difficult job, and mistakes are bound to be made. But how we handle those mistakes and how we engage the general public when it comes to those mistakes is what the issue is.
Cynthia, what can we do? Again, let me ask you, how do we use the law to fight some of these police officers who abuse us?
Well, like Mina was just saying, the Independent Police Commission is very essential. Currently we do have structures in place. We have the PIPS, we have SHRAJ, for example, which has the mandate to take on allegations of human rights violations. But then if you look at the mandates of SHRAJ, its power is basically to make recommendations, and it would make recommendations to the IGP, all right? And if it's a recommendation, it's not really binding, so he decides whether or not to implement that. And then the
we've seen SHRAJ go to court a few times.
Yes, so, but then, you know, within the police service, they have a certain structure. And so if the SHRAJ comes up, if it's an administrative issue, and then it conducts investigations into the matter, essentially it has to go back to the police service. And so that's where you see that SHRAJ's mandate is a bit limited. And so there is a need for that independent commission that Mina was talking about. And then quite apart from that, we realize that the people have, essentially, they have the power to access redress, all right? So if SHRAJ is the same body that is supposed to do investigations into a matter. Sorry, the police service, to conduct investigations and then recommend or ask for prosecution of a matter before it goes to court. And then we have these incidents happening that directly, where the police is actually implicated. It becomes difficult. So for me, I would confirm again that the independent police commission is needed. I think this is really the only way to go. We have institutions, the human rights institutions are there to provide free legal services. Now the woman who was abused has lawyers coming together who want to assist her. But then, quite apart from this, like you said, because this was recorded and has gained state or national attention, that is why she's getting the support. We need to have a system where the people would themselves go out and then seek redress. And if we have that independent body established, that's where we'll be able to make some progress. Otherwise, I think we'll be going back and forth, and it will be the same talk show that we've had for a number of years now. The Independent Police Commission advocacy started as way back as 2014, and we're still having
this
that.
This is 2018.
Yeah.
So how hard have you been pushing, Mina?
It started actually in 2005 when CHRI started working on police reforms. There was a book that was released at the time, Police Accountability, Too Urgent to Delay, Too Important, something. And then we did a document. But you see, even we have documents that show us the path to go. As far back as in the 1990s, I think, there was the Archer report. And the recommendations made in the Archer report are still very relevant today. How many of those recommendations have we implemented? And that's the challenge. We have everything that it takes. We have signed on to international standards, the international human rights standards that the police purports to adhere to. The point is implementation. What are we doing? And then it's also about the psyche of the Ghanaian itself and what we know and what we do not know. It might surprise you that you go on social media and people, and some of them purport to be lawyers, talking about the woman's attitude. What was her attitude? You see, I think that policemen ought to be trained in emotional intelligence. In any case, his job was to enforce law, to protect the staff and the property.
The facility.
Was it his job to do customer service at that facility? Because you see, getting the woman out was supposed to have been the job of the bank staff. All they needed to do was engage her and make her understand, because she had been there for morning. So if you, even as a policeman, you are asked to send her out, there are ways to go about it. Engage her. You don't use brute force. But that is the psyche of some policemen. I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Like I said, they're very fine ones. The current IGP is one of them. I know quite a number of very, very fine policemen. But I also know a lot of very, very lousy policemen. And for me, it is time that we train the police the way they ought to do things.
Is it training that is lacking?
Training is lacking, and then I think the recruitment process. What are the kinds of people that we are recruiting into the system? And then post-recruitment training. And then also the facilities and the conditions of service. Honestly, we are human beings. But I also tell my police friends this: I know I will not be a good policewoman. You made a choice. I'm sorry, the job is very, very difficult, very demanding, and at times very dangerous. But you made a choice, so I'm going to hold you to the standards because you chose to be a police officer for whatever reason. So it is a bevy of issues: the training, the recruitment process, the facilities that they have, and then even the remuneration. It is and then our whole attitude as Ghanaians. Sometimes we think that it's a police officers. We don't hold officials accountable. That's the thing. The wrong thing has become right because people are complaining about the woman's attitude. I get beat up like that, and you're complaining about my attitude. You know, it's a policeman, so when he says jump, you ask how high. Unfortunately, some of our policemen have this attitude. The moment you try to engage them, you are challenging me. And so I can...
You think you know the law?
Yes. I can just envision the woman asking him, why I should go out, and that alone puts him off, because he doesn't understand why you don't just obey. But it doesn't work like that. It is a service. You are providing a service. So I think that is a whole lot of the Ghana Police Service generally is not an accountable institution.
Mina and Cynthia, let's talk about Kumasi. And I know that, Mina, you've been on that beat. You know a lot. Where are we now? In fact, from the very beginning, what do we know happened?
What happened? Well, I'm just going to listen to media reports, because the things that I'm hearing on the ground are not confirmed, and I'm not going to sit on air and talk about that. But one key thing is that everybody I'm speaking to is saying that those boys were not armed robbers. So I'm not in Kumasi, so based on that, well, according to media reports, the police claimed they went there to do an operation after one of theirs was killed in that area. And when they got there, they saw these guys who engaged them in a gun battle. In fact, according to one of the reports that I read, they said they asked them to stop, and the people they were in a car, were not stopping, so they tried to engage them in a gun battle, and they shot and killed all 7. So that is what it is. Now, after that, after they shot them, and this is why I talk about training, because as far as the little security and law enforcement that I know, when something happened at the scene, you don't move anything, because and there were fatalities. Homicide is supposed to come and investigate. You have moved things. They carried the bodies, put them in the back of a truck, and drove to a hospital, and then allowed some media people to take pictures of them. I think that was so not on. So where we are now is that the families and the community are saying that those are not robbers. The police are saying we have evidence, and so there's this tussle. Government has said we are setting up an independent commission to investigate, which is very, very good. But government needs to also think seriously about the composition of that committee. And as a way forward, I think that in about 7 days, the committee should be set up, and at least they should give us an initial report of their findings. For example, the kind of guns that were used, the kind of bullets, the number of bullets that were shot, because I'm hearing that, I haven't looked at the bodies, I have refused to look at those. I'm hearing that the bodies were so riddled with bullets. I don't know how true that is. So at least an initial report, just to calm nerves, just to let people know that they are working on it, would be a very good idea. But the question is, are we always going to set up an independent ad hoc commissions whenever such things happen? Let's institutionalize this thing. It will help all of us.
Good question. Cynthia, anything more that you want to add from the Kumasi incident?
Yes. When you look at the Ghana Police Service, or the police service as it is, you'd realize that they have guidelines.
Exactly.
And it essentially outlines how the police officers are supposed to operate. They are armed, and so as part of the guidelines, anytime your trigger goes off, there has to be some kind of accountability. There has to be some kind of sitting, a committee or whatever it is, to find out what necessitated the use of the arm. And this is where you begin to talk about the extent of force that is applicable, right? So if we're hearing, and I also don't want to go into the facts because nothing is really confirmed, but to what extent were they justified in, pulling the trigger so many times? What justified this? And I also know that as part of the guidelines, you have to try as much as possible to ensure that even if somebody is accused, because they are presumed to be innocent, your work is to disarm the person and then bring the person to justice. Essentially, the person has to be alive. So you're not supposed to shoot to kill. So it goes back to the issue of training. It goes back to the issue of accountability, because I've actually heard a policeman say, if, like she already said, power play, right? So if I shoot you, nobody would ask me any questions and you'd be dead anyway. So we have to let them be accountable. Otherwise,
but we've also heard that
too much.
if you exchange fire, essentially you hear them say that if you exchange fire with a police officer, then he has to protect himself.
That is true, but then in the course of self-defense, that's why you're a police officer. You've been trained in a certain manner to know how to disarm a person or to know how to defend yourself, whilst you're also shooting, not shooting to kill, but shooting to make sure that the person does not have that opportunity to attack you. All right, so yes, you feel that threat, but then you've been trained as an officer, and so you should know how to go about your job. Yes, there are times when you would have fatalities, but like I'm saying, accountability is essential, so that they do not presume that I can do this and then get away with it. And then I believe that once we're able to get this done, the number of casualties and the fatalities that we are witnessing now would go down.
It's incredible that they shot all 7 and killed them on the spot.
It's too bad.
It's incredible because, you see, for me, if 1 or 2 had died, it would make it, I could understand that maybe the initial, reaction. But all 7, and the dead don't talk. The dead don't talk. So what really happened, what the people were doing there, what the police were doing there, all those things will still be murky. And in enforcing law or in combating crime, the UN has guidelines. The Ghana Police Service has guidelines. Unfortunately, in our part of the world, the moment they mention the word armed robber, because it's a menace, you can get the whole community backing you. And time again, that word armed robber has been used to cover some of these killings. And there are several instances. The challenge is that we know nothing about what happened because the investigations reports are not made public. And so it goes on and on. But if these reports of police killing purported armed robbers are made public, that's what happened. We are holding him accountable. Oh, the person was innocent, was just doing it in the course of his work. It calms nerves. Again, if it's getting compensation is easy, if people could sue, people can, but legal fees are very expensive. And the court processes are so long. And so people are discouraged. But if people were going to be sued in their individual capacities, as well as the state being sued, I think that it will minimize some of these things, on top of the fact that it will make people more accountable when they are doing some of these things. Because in a lot of instances, even when a policeman brutalizes somebody, the worst that happens to the person is that he's transferred. And we don't hear about any other thing. So we need to be more accountable. And then our society as a whole, I pick a phone, somebody has done something wrong, and I start pleading. I start begging. I start negotiating. I am not saying that for certain offenses, I mean, come on. But for things like this, we as a people, we need to be up and doing.
So let's look at the woman who was brutalized at the Midland Savings and Loans. If it happens to me, what can I do? Or what should I do? What should be my first point of call?
Go make a complaint at the police service.
You go to the same police.
Yeah, that is what we have.
That assaulted you.
That's what we have.
To complain about a police officer.
But you also can go to Shraj. You cannot go directly to Shraj and complain.
Is it an open door, you just walk in?
Oh, you just walk in. Shraj would always hear you. You just walk in. And they would take it up. Because there's a couple of incidents that the process might take a bit long because they themselves, and that is also one, the institutions are not well funded. They themselves need investigators. So you go to Shraj, you complain. There are a couple of instances that cases had been sent to PIPS. There was a lady who claimed she went to PIPS, that a policeman took her money or something. And it was going on back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so she came to report to us. And then we forwarded it to Shraj and we monitored. And she got her money back.
After how long?
after quite a while, after about 8-9 months.
So this particular woman, still talking about what happened at Midland. We're told she couldn't even go to the hospital because she didn't have money. I know about the domestic fund,
the domestic violence
fund, which, in fact, if we had money in there, then it will be possible for anybody, if you've been assaulted, to go for a medical checkup. At least you have your report, and then you can move forward with that. If you don't have resources, what do you do?
Honestly, I don't know much about, I don't work in that particular domestic violence, but I think that the fund is basically for domestic violence and not for any kind of violence against a woman. It's for domestic violence issues. If you don't have money, that's where the challenge is. Because there is legal aid, actually. You could go to the legal
A resource legal aid you're talking about? Or the same old one that we've been...
The same old one. So why don't we resource it? So there is legal aid. And there are a couple of lawyers doing pro bono. Well, you can always come and also see us at CHRI, or go to HRAC, and then we'll help you find, or go to FIDA. These are the places that...
But how many people, how many ordinary citizens know the way to FIDA?
That's also the challenge.
Or to your place or Cynthia's.
That's also the challenge.
And you know, we are mostly within Accra. We do work outside Accra, but we are mostly stationed here. And so these incidents that we are recording now, they are happening in other parts of the country, but they are not accessing the needed help. And so it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge. There's basically no funds. And if you go to the police station to report and they give you a form to go to the hospital for medicals, you would have to pay. Even though we have worked around not paying for such reports to be done, but they have to pay. And a lot of them give up when they encounter that. So
what's the point?
It's a major challenge.
I mean, I don't have the resources, and you want me to spend the little that I have following a case that I don't know how it's going to end.
And in a lot of occasions, if it has to do with a policeman, even getting the forms become a problem.
Yeah.
Because the case of the gentleman that I spoke about, after they beat them up and got them, we got them out on bail around 10 p.m. And you know why? I even called the deputy regional commander at that time, and he was just backing his men. So I had to call someone else, who called the IGP then, and the IGP asked what happened. I can't remember the details.
So even in pursuing justice, trying to go through it has to be whom you know.
Yes, and the next day, at that time when they wanted a form, a hospital form, the counter NCO was not prepared to give it to them. They came back the next day, the counter NCO did not give it to them, so they went to the hospital on their own volition so that they can get that. It is that bad.
I think we
this is in Accra, Odoko. So imagine Accra, Odoko.
It sounds.
In 2013.
Is this like? It sounds like it's a hopeless. You know.
I wouldn't say it's hopeless. Anything and everything is fixable. The same thing might happen in another police station, and the processes would be different. They'll be quite helpful. It is because in a lot of instances, a lot of people think they are not accountable. A lot of public officials think that they are not accountable to anybody. And it comes back to the hierarchy. If I'm at a police station where I know my boss or my commander would not allow me to do that, I will not do it.
If you look at the focus, the attention, the Kumasi, the conversations coming out now, if the people had not reacted the way they did and refused to accept what had been narrated to the media, would we have been where we are? The president commenting on the issue, an entourage, IGP going there, the people driving the IGP away, Zongo minister and inner cities minister now, being in the middle of affairs. Would we have had all these things if the people had not refused to accept?
I don't think so. I don't think we would have made this progress, because a lot of the time I realize that it is when the pressure is on that the authorities act. And so for now, it looks as if this is the way to go. But we are hoping that all of this would be fixed, because what we are doing now is not an attempt to stigmatize the police service or to downplay their essence within the Ghanaian nation. Essentially, what we are seeking for is that the institution would be revitalized. You know, the transformation that they say they are doing would go on, and then would see a more proactive, a more accountable institution, because we need the Ghana Police Service. Without them, I don't know how we're going to live. You know, they are supposed to ensure law and order. And so we need them to act professionally. We need them to protect us. And so that's why we're having this engagement. Until then, maybe what we can do is to continue the pressure and hope that we'll be heard.
So this complaints units that you're pushing for, what would it change in our society if we were to have that?
It would change a lot because, you see, it is not even for the citizens alone, it's also for the police. I've engaged quite a number of police officers who themselves feel victimized. Where do they go?
They go to PIPs.
They go to PIPs. But trust me, talk to a lot of policemen and they are not comfortable with PIPs. I mean, if you look even around the world globally, how many policemen are comfortable with internal affairs in their organizations? So it will help the police themselves. It will make the police more accountable. It would also, because it's a civilian, even if there's, because there are various forms, there are various mechanisms when it comes to an external mechanism. The South Africans have their own, the British have their own, the Irish have their own, and we are doing a research which will be launching quite soon of the various models, so that Ghana can pick one model. Because in 2014, it was agreed that, yes, Ghana needs that. We had that conversation. It was agreed. All the stakeholders were there. It was actually initiated by the police themselves. Unfortunately, when we were having the stakeholders meeting, they decided not to come. But other stakeholders were, Shraj was there, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Interior and Defense, the Ministry of Interior, AG's department, they were all there. So it was agreed, academia was there, that we actually need that body. What we could not agree on was the form that it should take. Should we go after the South African one? Should we take the Australian model? The different models. And what happens is that it's a body that normally has both civilians and police and other bodies on it. And they do the investigations. They open themselves up for people to bring in complaints and then investigate, and they make their recommendations public. And some of them have enforcing mechanisms. They have powers of the subpoena. So it will change a lot. And it will also bring credibility, because you see, then people will not be seeing it as the police investigating themselves. So that will change a lot. We could do that with Shraj, but you see, Shraj as it is overwhelmed. Shraj is doing...
Overwhelmed and the resource.
And the resource. Shraj is doing too many things. It is the whistleblower organization. It is the human rights body. It's the ombudsman. It also looks at administrative justice. It's quite an octopus. Unfortunately, it's not resourced enough to do the work. It would have been very easy for us to use Shraj because it's in all the regions. It has some district offices. But if you even resource Shraj, it has so many things to do that one arm might suffer if you add, or they're already doing this anyway, but how effectively is it being done? Again, it comes back to resources. Let
me read some of the messages and then we'll wrap up on this. I want to ask you where you see this will all end. Would it just go away, as we've made a lot of things go away, and then when it resurfaces, we'll talk about. This one says, these are text messages. This one says, the indiscipline of the police is getting out of hand. They embarrassed me unlawfully on my way from Boko to Tamale. I think Article 5 of the Constitution should be taught in police institution. Ishao Zabzugu, Article 5. Okay, let's see if we can read some of your WhatsApp messages. This one says, my name is Richard Anagom. We lost hope in the police department, so the truth of the matter is to overhaul the police department for the sake of accountability and transparency. That's what you say. This one says, okay, Isaac Wenchiki in the northern region. Thank you for your message. This one says, the same things are happening in Hohoi. The police beat a taxi driver, wounded him also, a motor rider, which has, the person has lost his eye currently. The guy has not, okay, so essentially that's what you're saying, the person has lost his eye. This one says, Nana Kwesi in Techiman. Nana Kwesi says, okay, Nana Kwesi is sending me something that I can't open right now, but he says, I'm not sure the policeman who brutalized the woman ever had any training to become a security officer. He's a disgrace to the police establishment, to himself, to his family, and to his church, where I'm told he's an elder and an instrumentalist. Okay, Nana Kwesi in Techiman, this is where we'll end it. I think we get your point. Thank you very much. We're told the latest update that my producer is giving me is that the vice president is headed to Kumasi this morning on this issue of the 7 being shot and killed. This one says, protecting or enforcing the law does not mean you are above the law. The police should be brought to order. Vincent in JoyNews in BA sending this text message. Okay, this one says, you're asking if I can send you the lady who was beaten up by the police officer's mobile number. And this will bring me to what is currently happening. So there are people making donations, but how do we, because there are so many others who also would need some kind of support. Is there like a central, I don't know, like a centralized system that people can donate to, so that we're not saying these things should happen, but just in case it does, then we'll have ready money sitting somewhere to support people?
Cynthia, do you know if I don't know of any? It's normally a group of people that might come together and then decide that we want to help and then solicit for funds, or sometimes it's a media or a company, a corporate organization, things like that. But I'm not aware. Maybe I stand to be corrected, but there's nothing like that that I know of.
I think you're right. Essentially, it's more ad hoc than having an institutional or a national resource for victims of such incidents. But then there is the fear that if we make such facility available, such resources available, then we are shaking the responsibility of duty bearers. And so when things like this happen, you're supposed to go to court, you're supposed to have access to justice. It's not just about the police saying we have picked him up and so we are dealing with the matter. You have to actually go the extra mile to make sure that justice is rendered, that victim is compensated. And so I think that this would be a good way to go, but then also having a national resource would be great. Yeah.
I have a message. I think this person is a police officer. It says, Mama, we ask the human rights people if they will walk and arrest robbers if the robbers are shooting. Secondly, why we don't hear them when police officers are shot.
I think that he's wrong if he says why we don't hear them when police officers are shot. When police officers are shot, comments are made all the time. But you see, when it comes to somebody who has been trained, you are a duty bearer. In terms of requirements, more is required of you. You are supposed to go according to certain rules. When it comes, most of the time, when policemen are shot, they are normally shot by lawless people. They are normally shot by armed robbers. What we can do is request that the police is equipped. Are you going to issue a statement to armed robbers? To do what? The state does not pay armed robbers. My taxes does not pay armed robbers. My taxes pay the police. So if my taxes pay you, the policeman, and you are turning the equipment that my taxes bought for you on me, I need to require that accountability from you. But if the policeman die in the course of his work, the pressure is put on government. Resource them, protect them, preserve them. That's what the best we can do. And in terms of walking to arrest armed robbers, I'm a human rights advocate. I am not a trained policeman. If you are a trained policeman, you chose to go through the training. I am assuming you are equipped to deal with the work that you are doing. So asking me, who is not a police man or policewoman, if I would walk to and that is the kind of attitude that is getting her nowhere. You are a policeman. You are supposed to.
That's your job. You're trained to do that.
Yes, you are trained to do that. And when there's a problem, instead of being accountable, you are asking me if I'm going to do that. And I think that if these are the kinds of people we are having in the service, no wonder we are going anywhere. There is a problem. we need to be accountable.
Yeah.
Deal with it. There's a problem with armed robbers. There are structures in place. Are they working? What you can say is that, okay, the laws that we have to deal with armed robbers, we think that they need to be relooked at. But you don't ask a human rights advocate to be a policeman and deal with armed robbers. Please, Mr. Policeman, whoever you are, you made a choice to be a policeman. Be a professional, and nobody will talk about you.
Okay, just in wrapping up, how do we ensure this does not die a natural death? Because I bet there are some police officers who are saying, oh, yeah, look at them, they will talk about it, but in the end, yeah, we'll get away with it.
We'll keep the advocacy going. This is not the only country that has gone through or that is going through this. Other nations have gone through it and they've come out of it. They've established the independent police bodies. And so I believe that with this kind of advocacy, and it will be sustained, this is not for our good. It's also for the policeman's own good. Because when the system is reformed, they also benefit. They would not be encountering the challenges that the person was talking about right now, you know, because it would be a holistic approach. And so this is not just for us, it's also for them.
Okay. And I would ask you to phone number, your website address so that people can be familiar. And if they want to get in touch, it will be easy for them to. Mina and Cynthia.
Okay. My institution is the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative. Our offices are at Asylum Down, just around Trust Towers, adjacent to the Hearts of Oak office. Okay. Our telephone number is 91170, because I tend to use my cell phone a lot.
Okay.
And
so 0302. 0302
971170.
Okay.
And our website is www.humanrightsinitiative.org.
Okay.
And we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are not on Instagram.
Okay. Cynthia.
Yeah, so I work with the Human Rights Advocacy Center. We are located in Osu, behind the Kingdom Books and Stationery. We are on Facebook, Human Rights Advocacy Center Ghana. On Twitter as well, but I don't remember.
just Google it. You find
just Google it. You find us on Twitter, on Facebook. I don't remember our phone number either.
You can get it when you Google
but it's easy to locate us behind Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you for this conversation. It's a very useful one that we should be having often to empower ourselves as citizens.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
And thank you for having us, Mama V.
Sure. All right, stay with us. We have another very important conversation coming up. Professor Stephen Odai is the Dean of Arts and Sciences at the Ashesi University, and he's speaking to Kojo Yangsing. They will discuss the double-track system the Ghana Education Service seeks to introduce in the senior high schools. I think this is suddenly happening, but apparently there have been some conversations on the ground. We'll get to hear a lot more details. Stay with us.